that our bodies create the shape of the space around our body. Places where our bodies hollow in relationship to space, and places in our bodies that hollow out, carve out into the space around us. And from whatever surface you're on, take just a quarter turn to roll onto a different surface. We're not going to spend as much time on the surfaces as we did last week, but just taking a moment to notice where your body is hollowing out and where it is carving into space. And creating this dynamic relationship of the body molding space and the space, and space molding the body. In this sort of curvy, wavy, hollowing and carving, or concave versus convex curve. Where is your body concave and where is it convex? If you remember the definitions of that. Where is it hollow? And where is it carving out? And then take another quarter turn. Come onto a third surface. And see what it feels like here. Maybe there are places that come more prominently. Either the curving of your head up into space, or the curving of your lower back down, hollowing in, the hollowing of the palms of your hands, and the jutting of your knees or your shoulders, the hollowing of the soles and arches of your feet, and the jutting out of your heels. And they create different landscapes in space or with space. And then take another quarter turn onto your last surface, or the last surface that you have not visited yet. And notice where you're hollowing away from space. There are places like the underneath the curve between your neck and your chin. It's a hollow space. The armpits, hollow spaces. The front of the hips, especially if they're flexed, hollow spaces. The back of the knees if they're bent. And places that tend to be a little bit more jutting into space, your chin, your elbows, especially if they're bent. The knees. Even your skull. And just notice the different relationship with space that they all have. We can take a moment to maybe roll a little bit more fluidly or visit a specific surface or two, or try a specific shape. Just with this idea, and we're gonna focus more on the hollow places, on the hollow surfaces today. So if you would like to, when you're done visiting what you like to visit, you can start to take your attention to the hollow places. And mold your body into space through these hollow spaces, or maybe a process of hollowing and flattening. Of condensing and spreading, which, if you remember, is what we were working on last week. But instead of working on your entire body surface, front and back body, we're going to work a little bit more specifically in smaller surfaces. So that these initial movements of your body come from hollowing or condensing and spreading your hollow surfaces. Starting pretty freely. Trying different places and different things. And noticing also, every now and again, some other things might come up as you hollow or as you spread a surface. It might carry a certain quality. It might call for other surfaces to respond. It might carry a memory. And then gradually you can make your way onto your back to start the next piece. And if you'd like to take a moment to pause, take your time to get there. And if you'd like to take a moment to pause, take a moment to pause. There are some areas that might speak to you more directly, some parts of you that you might notice are more organized to lead movement, which is fine. Wherever they are, you might want to notice. It might be interesting. And then we're going to come with most of our attention into the palms of the hands and the arches of the feet, which are soft, both of them, soft, hollow surfaces. And there is a way in which you can hollow or condense your entire body into a little curl from the arches of your feet and the hollow and the palms of your hands, as if your arches of the feet could hollow up, and that hollowing up causes the knees to bend, causes the hips to flex. Rather than pulling your legs up into your chest, they're being pushed up through the arches of your feet. And then as you spread a little bit through the soles and the arches of your feet, the legs will extend back out. You can start with just the legs. You can do one at a time if you don't want to bother with too much core stuff. There's literally a little hollowing that can happen that helps you take your legs in towards your chest, and the spreading that takes them back out. Doesn't matter right now what your hands and arms are doing. I like to mirror the movement a lot, but that's just my habit. And as you explore this, if it feels familiar, it's because you have done it before. It is the first thing, one of the first reflexes when you're still in the womb, right? Pushing against the soles of the feet will make the fetus curl in, and then to be born, a baby will partially there is environmental things happening, and partially they will push themselves out, pushing with the soles of your feet and creating what we call extensor tone, right? Or physiological extension. So if you would like to, you can come into your little side roll. Maybe you curl your legs in, and then I find it easier on the side, so you can choose finding the pushing of the feet that extends maybe not just your legs, but all the way up into your head to find the birth canal. And then you curl yourself back in, which babies will do when they're tiny. Before they start pushing back at you, if you tickle a baby's feet, they will curl in, because that reflex comes first for that space or spatial organization that they have to do when in the womb. So try that. Any shape really that you're making is fine. I'm going from side to side, but it doesn't really matter. If you remember when you were born, or before you were born, or just after you were born, you can use those memories. Most of us don't remember cognitively, but the body does.
Margarita, can I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
I'm just wondering, thank you, this is great. So when I activate the soles of my feet like that to pull in, I I feel it really deep in my core, like in my pelvic floor muscles. Is that
Mm-hmm.
fine, or should I try to relax my core?
That's fine.
Okay.
If you want to try to relax it, you're welcome to. But yes, they will call other tissues with them. And part of the six that we often use pair together are the soles of the feet, the palms of the hands, the pelvic floor, and the soft palate.
Okay.
That it all do that kind of like moving up, and the diaphragm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do that kind of movement. So it makes sense that you're
I'm
feeling
trying to
it.
make sure I keep it out of like hip flexors and glutes and that kind of stuff, but pelvic floor is
Yeah.
fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Of course. And whatever you find interesting also works for me. But yeah, it's part of the conversations between all of the tissues, right? Because especially if you think of it from an embryological perspective, the tissues have never not known each other. All of the cells in the pelvic floor have always known the cells in your feet, have always known the cells in your hands, right? And they respond to each other in a much more profound way than we think cognitively. So all of the tissues that do this kind of movement will talk to each other. I feel it too in the pelvic floor, lower abdominals, and sometimes in the throat and soft palate too. The diaphragm has a lot of work to do and it kind of moves independently, right? But it has a similar resonance and it resonates deeply with the pelvic floor, right? Pelvic floor and diaphragm talk to each other all the time. Good. If you have a wall or a bed or a couch or something and you want to try to actually push against the surface with your feet, you can also try to do that. Yeah, like you're literally pushing yourself out. Feel the push traveling all the way up to the head, to the palms, right? And then if you want, when you're ready, you can start to add the palms of your hands, which are just kind of a mirror of what the feet are doing. And the palms of the hands will spread and open as they start to reach out, as you, as a baby, as a person, start to reach out into space, right? And the push might start from the feet, but it will go also to the palms. Nice. And I'd recommend for now still to stay between the back and the thighs before we'll take it into a relationship with the ground. So you're still in this sort of floating world for a little bit longer, but you can give yourself a little bit more freedom if you would like it. Yeah. 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 Take breaks as always whenever you want to, if you want to. Go back to the beginning of your exploration, inner space, outer space, and the relationship between those two. hollowing, and then stretching and expanding. And then what happens if from your side, the palms of your hands find the floor to expand and push into, and you find your front body? So we're adding one more surface and a little bit of a more active push perhaps if you want it. It might be very small. And then what happens if you unpair your feet and your hands so that it is possible that while the feet are hollowing in, your hands are spreading open, and vice versa. And you might find some level changes can start to happen just from the hollowing and expanding of the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet together or in different organizations. You might find your way to kneeling or to sitting. Yeah. And there might be a little momentum every now and again that you can catch if you're changing levels, changing surfaces, but see if you can mostly not use momentum. Yeah. And feel that hollowing. It comes in from the soles of your feet. It travels up along your shin bone to your knees, up along your thigh bones to your hips, into your pelvic floor. Hollowing of the hands comes through the palms of your hands, into the wrists, into the forearms, elbows, upper arms, and shoulders. And same, the spreading out. Trace the pathways with as much clarity as you can every time. And if all 4 of them are too much to trace, follow one at a time. And one interesting add-on is the head. The head could go with the feet or it could go with the hands. It's a little bit of a choice there. And just keep going, changing levels. Maybe you make your way all the way up to stand. Maybe not yet, maybe never. We'll spend just a little bit more time on this. And on what it means to you, what it means to your body. eventually, if you are coming onto your feet, you might find a shape kind of like a squat, which is you've been doing throughout on your other surfaces. And see what it feels like from there, so that just the push of your feet extend your body into and towards your birth canal to the heavens. And then rather than falling down, which is what we often do, let yourself be pulled back down through the arches of your feet. See what that feels like. If you can, it doesn't matter how low you go. You could be higher than a full squat. The pushing is probably a little bit more habitual. The pulling back in, maybe a little less familiar. It doesn't matter how low you go. You can stay pretty high. And if you're staying on the ground, it's the same. Good. Yeah, and for a lot of people, the place where things get a little sketchy is coming up from a squat, is when the pelvis wants to lift up. And I invite you to see, it's really hard for me too, but to see if we can travel to the head first. Which doesn't mean that your head necessarily goes up first, but that there is a presence, because I could also be doing something like this. But there is a presence into your spine, all the way up to your head. From the soles of your feet. Just a little bit of time to play with this. If you stay on the floor, you can push against the surface if you want to have a little bit more feedback. Take breaks whenever you need to. We'll just take a couple of minutes to play with this. A little more than a couple, but take breaks when you need to. Or let it carry you away. And the next step is what happens if your 2 feet don't work at the same time. One might be pulling or pushing a little bit more than the other. Or one is pulling while the other is pushing. And what might happen is that that turns into some sort of a walk. You can exaggerate it if you want to start and your hands and your head are free to accommodate. For now. And then very, very gradually, make the movement smaller, containing, as if the external space was a little bit more restricted. But the internal impulse is the same. Just has less of a possibility to express itself in space. And slow down. So that the fact that the movement itself is smaller doesn't mean that there is less of a pathway or less of the energy or strength or force. Mm-hmm. And you can change levels if you want. Just stay with slow and small. And add, if you want, your gaze as if you could hollow your eyes in towards the back of your head, or spread your gaze out into space. The same two direction of hollowing and spreading. Hollowing in, hollowing your gaze in, and spreading your gaze out. Does your gaze change the quality of your body? And your eyes don't have to be open in order to change, to hollow or expand. You could still have your eyelids closed if you wanted to. A few moments to get lost in this, whatever this is. To let the body take over. Whatever that might mean or look like. And then gradually, without rushing anything, gradually we'll start to transition back. And depending where you are, it could be that you end up still walking or maybe rolling or laying down. It doesn't matter. You take your time and just start to transition back with all of the information, all of the journey. And yet, letting it go. Whatever that means, whatever that looks like. Give time to the body to let it go. Eventually, either on your back or standing, we'll take either some heel rocks or some bouncing, just to literally shake it off, shake that pattern off. Rocking vertically or horizontally, depending how you find yourself or how much energy you want to invest. Whenever you're ready, we'll regather, but as always, take your time.
Show